The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? What does weather have to do with war? Well, apparently a lot more than you'd like, and Amber and Scott discuss pressure. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
And you thought the weather guy on Channel 5 had pressure.
No kidding. This movie was really interesting.
Yeah, there's all these little tidbits in history that are so incredibly important that you just don't know about at all.
Alrighty, welcome boys and girls. This episode we are talking about pressure, and it is the story of the days leading up to D-Day and Eisenhower's attempt to storm Normandy. And it's super interesting and also kind of a play on words with the pressure, because obviously pressure leading up to D-Day, but also atmospheric pressure, because the focus of this film was the meteorologists and their task to track the weather to see if all would be good to move forward on D-Day on Monday, June 5th.
Ike wanted a 2.5 day out forecast.
It was 3 days initially when Dr. Stagg arrived.
Yeah, it was at 61 hours remaining. They needed to know. And for one, that's just beyond what you can give in 1944.
Oh, absolutely. And the meteorologist, Dr. Stagg, who came in to help with this project, said that's a long-term project. And Eisenhower laughed and said it's only 3 days. And Dr. Stagg was in weather. That is a very long time. And
anything over 24 hours.
Yeah, and Eisenhower had his team. He had his normal meteorologist, who was Crick. And Crick had successfully predicted the weather on many other battles, and so Eisenhower had confidence in him. But Dr. Stagg was brought in as a European meteorologist who knew a little bit more about the weather patterns there, and these two gentlemen had night and day, black and white, differing opinions on what the weather would be like for D-Day.
I'm kind of trying to figure out why they brought in Stagg if Crick was already so perfect. Yes, in retrospect, it's a good thing that they did, or else this podcast might be in German right now, and also we might not be recording a podcast.
Absolutely, because Crick said the weather would be sunny and bright and clear and beautiful on Monday, and Dr. Crick said, no, there is a storm coming in. There will be 8 to 10 foot waves of water in the ocean. There will be very limited visibility for aircraft, and it is a terrible idea to go on Monday. So you have both of these gentlemen giving very opposite recommendations, and you have 300,000 troops at the ready to go on Monday. And obviously, every minute that passes since then, it raises the chances of the enemy finding out about this plan for D-Day.
Yeah. I, on something like this, would tend to err on the side of caution, because you basically know that if you go and it's bad weather, you're slaughtered. 300,000 men, you don't recover from that. Like, you don't recover from that.
And this is on the heels of a practice run for D-Day, which went terrible, and many troops died. And this is weighing heavily on Eisenhower, seeing very recently, within 3 weeks earlier, of how so many men lost their lives because of the operation that didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
So what would you do if, and again, I'd kind of be curious to know how Dr. Stagg got brought in as well, but thank goodness he did. What would you do if you had a decision of that magnitude and two very opposite recommendations of what is safe, what is effective, what is going to be the best result?
Here's the way I look at it. If Stagg's wrong, 300,000 people are still alive. If Crick's wrong, 300,000 people die.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I agree with you. And it's also not that cut and dry because they're trying to lay low with 300,000 troops. And for those who don't know, a troop is a person. So it's 300,000 people. And if they wait and they just kind of release these 300,000 people, of course, the plan is somehow going to be leaked or talked about, or some guy's drinking at a bar, and it's going to get back to the enemy as to what this grand plan is for the attack. So they can't release them, but they weren't prepared to just hang on to these 3,000 people indefinitely.
Yeah, it's not even that. It's the fact that they had deployed just an insane amount of decoys.
Yeah,
giant inflatable tanks.
That was fascinating. Yes, they had tanks, and then they had other things that were blow-up versions. So if the enemy flew over, it would look like the Allies had this amazing presence and force, and when they were blow-ups. I thought that was fascinating. I didn't know that was something that happened.
Yeah, they're using that as a way of distracting the Nazi forces from where the real action is happening.
Yeah, and they also had basically dummy parachuters who would jump out of planes, and so it would look like there was a bunch of people landing, but they were decoy people that blew up when they hit the ground. And so if anyone saw the parachutes, they would think, oh my gosh, there's all of these military personnel around because look at all these parachutes. That was fascinating. All of this was really fascinating.
Yeah, war is a very strategic thing.
And
usually.
It makes perfect sense, but I never thought about weather pertaining to war. Of course, when someone says it, I'm like, oh yeah, of course that makes perfect sense, but I never thought about that on my own.
It depends on obviously where the war is being fought. If this was just on ground, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you had ocean and you had air in this as well, which definitely weather matters a lot.
Yeah, it matters incredibly. So yeah, I am erring on the side of caution. I understand that you have to be careful about that because that could put you out like 2 weeks potentially, and that's not going to work. So,
well, here's the interesting thing too, is Irving Crick, who was Eisenhower's meteorologist, as I mentioned before, he had successfully predicted all of the weather for these past attacks. He used this process of using analog maps, which is basically paper maps, and looking at the history of weather and saying, well, the weather was nice on this date in 1912. The weather was nice on this day in 1925, so it should be nice on this day in 1944.
That is called, boys and girls, confirmation bias.
That was really frightening, especially nowadays with weather change. You certainly couldn't be naive enough to think that would work. But even at the time, you can't compare apples to oranges because the weather patterns could possibly be stable in Casablanca. But you're in a different area of the world. To say that weather is the same historically everywhere across the planet is overly simplistic.
The maps that they were using actually were for the France beaches. So,
but his success in the past had been predicting areas that weren't the area where this was.
Yeah, like you don't have to predict a lot of rain over in northern Africa as much.
So here's a side fun fact. Crick. He was played by someone named Chris Messina. And this is totally random fun fact. Chris Messina is credited with creating the hashtag. So when hashtags started back in the day to organize information, supposedly Chris Messina did that.
It's interesting. He was also really good on the Mindy Project.
Yeah, he was on there as well. Anyway, back to Crick and Stagg. So they have this tug of war of Crick basically saying, I don't know why you're here. I'm already good at this. And Stagg saying, well, I outrank you. And we're going to do things my way. And you have this tug of war between these two men.
Neither one truly outranked the other one because they were part of different armies.
And there comes a meeting where Crick is about ready to go to the meeting and stops into Dr. Stagg and says, you ready to go to the meeting? And they are still at opposing sides of what to do on D-Day. And Stagg says, I'm going to go and you're not. And goes to the meeting, says the weather's going to be bad, we shouldn't go. And this tug of war between these two men of what they know for a fact, what the weather's going to be in their own opinions. What would you do if you were either Crick or Stagg and the fact that you had this other person saying the exact opposite and the stakes were this high?
Professionals can disagree on things that seem very black and white sometimes. This was a big one. Again, it's like when they brought up the 1916 map, that was horrible weather. Like, it was this scenario, only it went horrible. Like, you have to take all of those scenarios in. And they weren't going to get on the same page.
Okay. So
they both were looking at from different situations.
So
but I think they both need to be in the room.
Okay. So what would you do if you're one of these two men? Is you just kind of double down on your opinion?
Well, if I'm Stagg, I'm not telling Crick to not go in the room.
Okay.
As much as I might want to. Because it doesn't look good. That's a bad look for Stagg.
And he did get his hand slapped by Eisenhower after Eisenhower found out that he had done that.
Yeah, well, he's not going to find out. Jesus.
Also, another side note, Brendan Fraser, who played Eisenhower, he has lost a lot of weight. I was wondering actually if he was wearing Spanx or if he had lost that much weight.
He has had his weight fluctuate for roles a lot.
Yeah. No, he was looking svelte. Definitely trimmer than some of the films I've seen him in the last couple of years. Anyway, back to the film. So as they're going through this preparation that starts 3 days prior to D-Day, and as you said, they had the meeting and all of this pressure is gaining. And at the same time, Dr. Stagg finds out that the wife or the hospital that his pregnant wife went to has been bombed. Whew. And he is not sure if she's okay. And considering they are planning this top secret invasion, all the communications are locked down and he can't even really easily make a phone call to contact the hospital. Someone contacts him and says, it's been bombed. We don't know anything about your wife. And beyond that, he cannot call outside of the area, the building that he is housed in preparation for this invasion.
Yeah, that's hard to deal with,
and he gets the call to hear about his wife in this very heated debate with Eisenhower and Crick.
Shouldn't have put that call through. They should have taken the message and delivered it to him.
It's back in the olden days. I'm sure they didn't really realize that someone was in the middle of something. All that communication was done verbally. It's not like they could check the Slack and realize they were in a meeting or something.
Maybe, but he was able to keep it together well enough.
He did a remarkable job.
And yeah, and that's difficult to do. I talk a lot about being able to remain logical in the face of great emotion. And
you do.
He did that very well. I do want to go back, though, near the beginning about what would you do?
Okay.
When Stagg first meets Eisenhower.
Okay.
And Eisenhower's telling him, I need this forecast 2.5 days out. And I'd be like, do I have permission to speak freely? And knowing Ike, he's going to say, yeah. I'm going to say, where are the German troops going to be in 3 days? Tell me exactly where they're going to be.
Why would that? Aren't they trying to be as secretive as we are?
No, but he's going to say, we have some guesses, but we don't, I can't tell you exactly where they're going to be in 3 days.
Okay. And I see what you're saying.
And I would say that is the exact thing you're trying to ask me to do.
Oh, that's clever.
Right now.
That's very clever.
I can give you some guesses. I can give you some strong guesses. But I'm not going to know. And for me to have a better look at this, we got to get closer. Like, I know what you want.
Closer, time-wise.
Yeah, but I can't give it to you. It's not that I'm not good enough. It's that we can't do this. I can go through and make some forecasting now and give you things with like 20% certainty, but I don't think you want to start a mission on 20% certainty. So the best we can do is we can start tracking. And as we get closer, those percentages are going to get better. But what you're asking is impossible and potentially getting 300,000 men killed.
That would be a very articulate response. Bravo, good job. And as we look at what predicting the weather looks like in 1944, they are using weather balloons. They are using firsthand accounts from people in different areas who are monitoring the weather and calling and I would imagine telegramming and all kinds of other things to get this information back and forth. It is not today's world. It is no easy feat.
No. To want it within a 2,000-mile radius? Holy moly, that is a lot of area. But it's what they need. If you want to put together a picture, you need data.
So we get later into the film, and sure enough, Dr. Stagg is correct. There is a torrential storm, which Eisenhower actually calls a hurricane because it is that severe. And they are all relieved that they didn't send the troops into this weather and their imminent death.
Crick was shook.
And at this point, Stagg isn't just sitting back enjoying his victory. They're still looking at the weather.
Oh, yeah, they have to.
Because when they didn't go on Monday, the other potential date was 2 weeks in the future based on what was happening. But they're still tracking the weather. And there appears to be a lull in the storm that's out and that's going to be moving in. And Stagg sees an opportunity saying, maybe we can move in this gap in the storm and they won't be expecting it. What would you do if you saw that gap? And at this point, Stagg and Crick are working together. Stagg puts out an olive branch to say, stop licking your wounds and come back into the fight. And they both see this gap.
Yeah, so it's a small gap. And it took a lot of forecasting to get there, to even get to the knowledge that there might be one. And then to actually figure that out. And more than likely, the German army wasn't seriously considering that they would try to take the gap if they even found it themselves. So,
yeah, because the Germans are looking at weather in a different way. They're not looking at weather as in when we attack. They're looking at it from
when are we going to be attacked?
On the defense. So they're likely looking at things in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
So
listen. Ungodly number of troops died that day.
It was painful to watch.
Literally being mowed down.
Just getting
machine guns.
Getting 1 or 2 steps in sometimes before being shot dead.
Or even not even getting off the boat.
Yeah, it was brutal to watch.
And that's what it was, catching the Germans off guard. So imagine if you had them prepared. It would have, like I said, we'd be talking German right now, and we wouldn't actually be doing this because it probably would be banned.
All right, so back to the what would you do?
It would also be a very different movie.
What would you do if, might not be a movie, right? What would you do if you saw that gap, though? Would you tell Eisenhower you should go seize this opportunity of the gap? Or would you say we're still not sure, or it might be dicey? What would you say?
So here's the thing. I think Stagg understood the situation when he was like, not for 2 weeks, not till the 18th. And there was just an uproar. Like, that's not possible. Like, we cannot do that. So he knew he was going to have to try to find the best spot possible where it could exist. Because here's the thing, military precision, like if you say we have this small window, you can operate. It's not like they're going to be like, oh, hang on, we're late. Sorry, y'all start the battle without us. No, it's...
Especially the kind of communication they had back then. It was good for the military, but good for 1944, but certainly had a million flaws to it.
Oh, yeah, and he straight up said, like, listen, the weather's still not going to be great, but it's going to be the best you're going to have. So you have to point it out because he's logical. I can tell he may not be an actual military.
Which he?
Stagg.
Okay.
Like, he's super logical. He may not be the military strategist, but you don't need to be a military strategist to understand that if you can attack an opponent before they're ready, that's an advantage.
Right.
So he knew that while the first day didn't work, hitting him on the second day after it would look like there's no window at all.
They were supposed to go on Monday, and they ultimately ended up going on Tuesday.
Yeah. So you have no choice. You see the gap, you have to recommend the gap.
Yeah. So it was a fascinating film. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would because I actually learned a lot.
Yeah, it was intense. It was really intense. And like I said up front, it exposes a part of history that we probably didn't know. And it's these tiny, tiny little specks that completely shape where the world is right now.
Oh, yeah. At the end, the film ended with some historical information and JFK many years later asking Eisenhower how they did it, how they won, how they did what they set out to do. And Eisenhower said, we had better meteorologists than the Germans.
Yeah. And that's sometimes all it takes. That's really, yeah, your weather. They might just win you a war.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.